Hi guys, so I've tried recording this 2 or 3 times now, but I've accidentally deleted them, or the wind's been too noisy for it, and it's just been a bit of a nightmare. So this is about a take a billion of day 2 of the 30-day trans challenge, and today's questions are all about names. How did you choose your name, and what other names did you consider using, and why? So, just to start with, I suppose you really need to know my full name, which is Kyle Stephen Francis, and then my surname. The initials of which are HT. So, yeah. The reason I chose Kyle was because that's the name that my parents were going to give me originally. Basically, before I was born, my parents were certain that I was a boy, and hey, I don't like to disappoint, but they didn't know that. Yeah, everybody was convinced that I was going to be a boy, and so they chose the name Kyle Ayrton Francis for me. Kyle just because my mum liked it, Ayrton after Ayrton Senna, the racing driver that died in the year I was born, and Francis, which is my granddad's middle name. Obviously I popped out and it was like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And they gave me the name Stephanie, which, when you think about it, it's quite a nice name actually. I'd love that for my kids if I ever have kids, but yeah, when I chose my new name, I knew that I wanted something that my parents would have called me anyway, or that is similar to my birth name, because I just wanted a bit of a nod of respect in their direction, I guess. So Kyle it was. You will notice I changed the Ayrton because basically I didn't want anything in my name that was to do with a dead person, like a driver that I never even, it just wasn't really appropriate, I didn't feel, so I decided to drop that in favour of Stephen. And that brings us nicely on to the next section. What other names was I considering and why? For my first name, I only ever really considered something like Kyle, or perhaps Stephen, or Stefan, or something like that is very similar to my birth name. I didn't want to use Stephen or Steve or Stefan, because basically when I was younger, in year 9, so I was about 14, everybody started calling me Steve as a joke, and so even though I don't have a problem with the name as such, I didn't want people thinking that this was another joke, so I thought I kind of need something different. My middle names were kind of a bit more complicated. I was always going to keep the Francis because, like I mentioned in my last video, my granddad died about a year ago, and I wanted to keep his name as much as possible. So yeah, I was always going to keep the Francis. But it was a case of what to replace the Ayrton with. If I remember correctly, the names I was considering were Stephen, or something like that, Stefan or Steve, James, after my dad, Andrew, after my dad, or Richard, after my dad. James, I was pretty smitten with, I did quite like that one. Richard I ruled out because I have an uncle, or sort of a very close family friend, called Richard, and I don't know, I felt a little bit weird with that one. Andrew I ruled out because that's my dad's first name, it's also my uncle's first name, and I just thought, do I really want the same name as 2 other guys in my family? Probably not. So it was literally between James and Stephen. I didn't really have any preference. I asked my parents on their opinion and they both said they preferred Stephen, so that's what it was. I did spend a lot of time checking my initials over and over and over again, actually, just to make sure I hadn't accidentally spelt out anything dodgy, because my birth name I never used my middle name because I absolutely hated it, even worse than my first name. But my birth name, the initials were SH-T, which in primary school got me quite a bit of stick, so I'm very sensitive about initials. But yes, that's how I got my name. Sort of related, I must admit, once I decided on the name, I absolutely loved practicing my signature. Seriously guys, have you ever tried practicing a new signature? It's so much fun. Yeah, so that's it. That's how I chose my name. Tomorrow we have another new question. I think it's, have you ever been outed? Possibly. I will check that. But yeah, this one's quite short, and I will see you guys soon. Bye!